Hey, Jeff, kind of like Bucky, are you having that same nightmare every night again?
Which nightmare are you talking about?
The one with you and C-3PO?
Oh, the one where he's sensually feeding me a blueberry Go-Gurt?
No, the one where he's bathing you.
No, that's weird. I'm bathing him.
Oh.
Welcome in to the Bro Force Squad podcast, where we're just a bunch of bros drinking beer and watching TV and movies. I'm your host, the Mayor Jeff Hornacek, and this is our review of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Episode 1. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. We have a special guest joining us today, along with the mad scientist Brian Banner, to review this TV episode as we do all of our TV episodes. On the 4 Bro Force Squad criteria, which is the acting, the story, our favorite scene, and then any theories and questions going forward. But before we get started, as I said, very special guest with us today, Ethan Simmie from the 15 Minutes of Marvel podcast is with us. Ethan, thank you so much for coming on. Glad that we could get you on for the first episode of the show because we have no idea what's in store, and I'm very excited to see your take. So thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm stoked to talk about the show with you guys.
Yes, this is going to be a good one. So let's dive right into it. The acting and cast. So Ethan, of course, we have some familiar characters here, a few new characters as well, and then obviously the fun part about this is I think the one thing, and we might get into this in story a little bit, but the blip. Marvel is using this very effectively with all of their properties going forward. So who stood out to you, positive or negative, in terms of the performances in the first episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
I mean, I got to start right off the bat and say my boy Bucky. I feel like he is already one episode in a lot deeper of a character than he was prior because of what we see him go through with therapy, and we get a little background on even more background into the Winter Soldier and how he's dealing with that now. Still, I think Sebastian Stan is incredible in that role, and his ability to be so like, I guess, like passive aggressive and but like represent strength at the same time is very impressive, and I just love his character. I was never a big Winter Soldier fan initially, but I gotta say, so far in this show, he's got to be my favorite character.
Yeah, for me, like the coolest stuff Winter Soldier ever did was when he just wasn't talking and was killing people. And as Sebastian Stan has gotten like more into the role, I've been like, actually, there's a lot more here, and I care just as much when he's not having the mask on, executing some faceless person, as I do when he's actually sitting and talking, which is great. Brian, how about you? Good or bad? Who stood out?
I agree. I think Sebastian Stan stood out in a good light for me. He did a very good job of realizing, adding a layer to the character, right? So, like you said, he's just been this badass that what doesn't matter what side he's on, he's just murking people, right? Well, now we've got this layer where he has emotions, he has feelings, he's feeling empathy for the wrongs that he did, whether he was in control or not, and we're kind of starting to be able to explore that insight into his mind at this point in time, dealing with and on top of that, your best friend for 100 years is dead now. So that's another layer that I think is gonna be cool to investigate as the show go on. Somebody I thought didn't do very good, my boy Anthony Mackie. He was trying too hard. You could see he goes, look, Captain America's gone now. I'm the dude. Like, this is my show. Falcon comes before Winter Soldier. This is my show. And it came off on screen. He's got a little bit of a big head right now.
I mean, he had to shoulder a lot of the load here in this episode, right? Like,
yeah, and I think he got exposed a little bit.
Look, Brian, I don't want to. I mean, I'm a guest on your show, and I'm grateful. I've got to disagree though. Like right out of the bat, I think the way I think he is a product of the storyline so far, because the storyline is not necessarily hasn't picked up for him to be the star yet, and for him to be dealing with coming to the limelight, and we're still dealing with the fact that he is still living in the past and he doesn't know how to move forward. And so when he gives up that shield, and when he's trying to save the boat, and he's like trying to get a bank loan and all these things, he's still very much living in the past. And I don't think he's like the title character quite yet. And so I don't want to throw him under the bus yet. I do.
How cool is it?
Well, I'm a sick person, so I'll throw him under the bus. I thought he did that.
How cool is it? We got an episode where Winter Soldier is in therapy, and the Falcon applies for a small business loan.
And it all worked.
Yeah. I want to give a quick shout out to two characters that we might not talk about much in the show going forward, but Danny Ramirez, who played Torres, I thought was awesome in this. And then George St. Pierre returning as Batroc was really cool. And when Batroc, in the comics, he's Batroc the Leaper. He's like a joke of a character. He's like this dude who like jumps around on stilts all the time. And again, Kevin Feige continues to impress by saying, I'm going to take that character and make him a badass in live action adaptation. And George St. Pierre, he's not going to win any Academy Awards, but he's just perfectly cast here for the physicality of the role. And his scene in the beginning was awesome, I thought.
Yeah, I think the intro scene to the entire show was dynamite. Like a perfect way to rope people in and say like, hey, we're not really doing a show here. We're just doing like a 6-part movie. Because we saw things from Falcon that we've never seen in the movies, of him like using his wings as shields and like in certain ways. And then like with Little Red, he does some awesome stuff. And then he barrel rolls through a helicopter. Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Red Wing acts better in this than Jennifer Lawrence does in the X-Men movies. Red Wing tries harder.
I also want to give can I give a shout out to, I don't know who the actor's name is, but whoever plays Yori, he's just the sweetest gentleman.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I'm emotionally preparing for whatever heartbreak trauma that Bucky's going to bring into his life that he's not ready for because of killing his son. And he is so wonderful. And the fact that he just like outright is like, hey, this guy wants to go on a date with you. Will you go on a date with him? And like just goes for it. The ball's on this guy. Love to see it.
I want to do sake bombs with Yori.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
All right. Moving on to the story and the plot. So the synopsis of the first episode, according to IMDb, is brief, but it says Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes realize that their futures are anything but normal. And Ethan, obviously with these first episodes, really what Marvel, I think, is trying to do is establish where in continuity this takes place and then just sort of set up the first domino that is going to fall. So we get all the stuff with the Flag Crushers? I can't remember the name of the terrorist group again.
Flag Smashers?
Flag Smashers.
So they're established as the antagonists. We know Zemo
really cool name.
Right, is going to eventually show up. But Ethan, what do you think of the story here, or at least kind of what they had started to set up for the rest of the show, the next 5 episodes?
I think it's a really good building block initially, and I think I like the fact that we're dealing with real life and we're dealing with the blip and how that impacts people in different ways. Because what we've seen so far in Phase 4 with WandaVision is explicitly how Wanda is dealing with the blip, and so she decides to create her own reality and go that own route. And we also saw kind of how Monica dealt with it a little bit, and now we're seeing how Bucky and Sam are dealing with it with their families, and they're doing different things. Bucky is trying to get help and going to therapy and trying to do these things. Meanwhile, Sam is not letting go of the past and trying to hold on to what was. And so I think Marvel as a whole is doing a great building blocks with incorporating the blip. But I do like this first episode with seeing more like real life situations and how that impacts our main characters and how they deal with that versus like, oh, they're just like fighting machines, you know?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm gonna go, Jeff. Just get away. That's a really good point. Like we're getting to see a lot more of these guys aren't just superheroes; they're people also, and we're getting to see the people side more, which is something that I really enjoyed too. Another thing, like you said, how Wanda kind of created her own reality in WandaVision. I felt the complete opposite going into this first episode, or coming out of this first episode as did WandaVision. WandaVision, I was like, this is really weird. I'm pretty sure I liked it, but I'm not sure what is going on. In this, you know exactly what's going on. And there's a lot of elements that I really, really liked, and I can't wait to find that connective tissue between those elements.
Yeah, this episode for me did, I think, one thing I was really hoping Marvel would do with the Disney Plus shows, which is kind of like Ethan saying, take characters that we know, but give them more time to be fleshed out, right? Like everything with Sam and Bucky in this was just really more depth added to their characters, and things that like, even like Bucky in group therapy, which we'll get into here, at least I will, for best scene coming up next. That's something that like in a civil war, like it might end up on the cutting room floor just because you have so many characters and you have to move the narrative forward in, you know, an hour, 40-minute or a 2-hour movie, that you might not be able to put it in there, even though I think it's valuable and really helps us learn who Winter Soldier or Bucky is. But all that stuff with him and Sam is, I think, one of the beauties of the Disney Plus series is they can take time to take, I don't want to say ancillary characters because that's sort of discrediting who these two are, but we can get to know them on a more personal level that we just wouldn't have time to in a, like one of the movies that they would show up in. And the other thing it did, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead, Jeff.
The other thing I think that was really interesting, just echoing Ethan's point, is the blip is going to be so much fun for Marvel to play off of going forward. I mean, half the world, half the universe disappeared for 5 years. I mean, if I'm like a writer and Marvel taps me to come into this universe, there's so much you can do. Like, even in this, they're utilizing like the financial aspects of it, right? Like Sam's like, I know we apply for this certain small business loan, and the guy's like, yeah, dude, not anymore. Like, half the universe came back and wants those loans. So you can even do something as, you know, minutia as how it affected like a small town economy. So it's really interesting going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And I think they are giving them the appropriate time of day to really work that into the MCU, which, right, ultimately is their entire plan, is to become a more well-rounded and fleshed out universe versus just what we're seeing in the movies. But even the fact that you can open this show with, yeah, they had an action scene to open it, but like, you know, the 5 minutes before that of Sam walking through Cap's memorial and talking to War Machine, like, you know, and the fact that we can spend that much time and dwell on how he's emotionally dealing with all of this is totally something that I feel, like you said, would have got cut going into a movie. Like, you just can't spend that kind of time dealing with such detailed background. And I love it so far that we're getting that really deep character connection.
Yeah. And I think they're obviously knowing who ends up showing up in this series just based on casting. Like with Zemo and Agent 13, I think we're going to get even more of that going forward.
Yeah.
All right. Our favorite scene. Banner, I think you have the same one as me, so I'll just be a kind and gracious friend and host, and I'll let you go first. What was your favorite scene in the first episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
My favorite scene was when Bucky was talking to the Shrink. Just that one-on-one conversation, and he's like, no, I didn't have any nightmares. And she's basically like, okay, calls him on his shit. Great line. Well, if you don't talk, I'm going to pick up the pen. So, like, it was just that was when you're like, holy crap, he's not just the Winter Soldier. He's also Bucky Barnes, who's been alive for 100 years, has committed heinous, heinous crimes, and wants to right the ship. I had that little vacation down in Wakanda. I feel great now. It's time to rethink my life. Just such a good scene. The banter back and forth, and just great writing all around.
Yeah, his therapist calling him on his shit is like the best part. Like, she's an intellectual equal. She's fought in the armed forces. She's like, dude, I know when you're lying to me, and if you lie, I write. So he'll tell the truth. Ethan, how about you? What was your favorite scene?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be that guy, but I gotta copy Brian as well. So, I mean, that's what I had written down. That's the note that I came in prepared with. So I will elaborate a little bit on why I liked it so much. Yes, like the therapist going back and forth was dynamite writing. You also got to give credit for the way that the scene is stylized and the camera work, because as the conversation continues, we get tighter and tighter angles on Bucky and his therapist, and we see more and more intensity start to build. Whereas if we didn't get that camera work, I feel like we're just getting a kind of a flat conversation, and there's nothing really incredible about that scene. But we're getting this intensified, tight camera work that really connects you of like, this is something that Bucky is really struggling with, and he's really going through it. And there was one line that the therapist said, which I think is the best line of the first episode, at least. It says, if you are alone, that is the quietest, most personal hell. And that is like, that's that kind of deep writing that we were talking about, where Bucky is living that every day, but his therapist calls him on his shit and like tells him outright, like, this is exactly what it is. I think that scene displays really top class stuff from Marvel Studios for sure.
And just the thought of like the therapist asking to see his cell phone, like, what's on Winter Soldier's cell phone? Like, what apps does he have?
He doesn't have Tinder, I'll tell you that.
Right. He's like, you bank with Fidelity? I mean, that's your first mistake right there. He's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'll just give an honorable mention as well. I thought, and we've talked about it already, but both the scene with Rhodey as War Machine, I thought was important. It was expository in the sense that like us at home are wondering, and I'm sure we'll get more depth into it later on in the show, but like, why didn't Sam take up the mantle when Steve gave him the shield? Because we get the line at the end of Endgame, which I love, where he's like, this feels like it belongs to someone else. But he sort of elaborates now, and of course at the end you see the U.S. government kind of fucks him over immediately. Like, thanks for giving us this, now we're going to give it to someone else 5 minutes later. And then the other scene, which Ethan mentioned earlier, was Bucky's date that Yori kind of set him up on. It was fun, but the whole time, like, as is always going to be the case with Bucky being the Winter Soldier, he's got some demons that he's fighting with. And watching him get drunk playing Battleship, there's just so many Winter Soldier moments that humanize him in this show that I was like, give me all. If that's what this show's going to be for 5 more episodes, then hell yeah. Not that I wasn't in, but I'm double in now.
Yeah, and the fact that, like...
Go ahead, Ethan.
All right. So the fact that, like, she asks him, like, oh, how old are you? And he just says, like, 104 without stuttering. He just, like, stares her in her eyes and says, hey, I'm 104. Like, that's gold from Bucky.
Oh, yeah. And she laughs, and he's like, people always laugh, but I'm not fucking kidding. Like, I'm actually that.
I'm dead serious.
I'm actually that old.
I don't know how I've never played drunk Battleship before.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That just blows my mind away. That's right up my alley.
We've just never had Battleship.
That's true.
That's what it is. It's not the beer that's the problem. It's the actual. All right, last part of the show, which is my favorite part, our theories and questions going forward. So we can go round robin here. I have one off the top that maybe I'm a dumbass for not knowing this, but this is 6 months after Endgame, so I'll just say it. Is Steve Rogers dead right now?
I don't think we officially know. I think that's part of the Easter eggs, right? That people are seeing in the memorial of certain verbiage and certain wording. I don't know how that's been portrayed to the public.
And then Reyes talking to Torres, saying like, oh, there's some crazy theories about where Cap is, and Sam obviously like won't. He just kind of laughs it off. Like, something's going on with Steve. If he doesn't want to be in the public limelight, I totally get it. You were Captain America for, your entire life. Like, he just wants to go. Peggy's gone now, or I guess he lived his life with her. But I'm interested about that, and obviously them bringing it up is partly to address just us wondering, but I'm sure they'll do something interesting with it later on in the show.
I mean, didn't Christopher Evans sign a contract to like reappear for one or two projects? We don't really know what that is.
Yes, he did. And I mean, if it's a cameo role, I'm sure he would have no problem coming back and doing it anyway. Or maybe there's something they had, like footage they filmed for Endgame that they didn't use, could use for this. So it'll be interesting.
I'm in the camp where I don't really want to see him back. I got to be honest with you.
Yeah.
He's wonderful. His storyline was tied nicely with a bow, and I just want to leave it at that. And it was played out so well. And I don't, other than fan service, I don't see a huge purpose yet. Could be revealed in this show, but a huge purpose yet to see him again show up.
Yeah, you stuck the landing. No need to get back on the monkey bars,
The only way I can see him coming back and me really enjoying it is if he's got to be in the show first off, and he's almost a mentor to Sam, and he's always old. He's the old guy that we saw at the end of Endgame, and he's living maybe like in a lake house or something like that. and every episode and a half, Sam goes for a quick 5-minute conversation, and he's trying to mentor him. That's the only way that I would be okay with it.
We could even do like a phone call, like just his voice. Like
yeah,
just do his old guy voice.
FaceTime. We have the technology.
I don't think Steve could figure that out, but maybe one of his like grandkids could help him get it like a Zoom setup.
Yeah, someone could teach him.
All right, Ethan. Any theories or questions you had?
Yeah, so I do have one theory I was thinking about yesterday. I was on another show with the Geeky Waffle, another podcast, talking about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and we were kind of talking, and I started to think. I don't know if you guys have seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Have you seen the show?
Seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Hey,
every episode.
I'm just double checking, because there's a lukewarm fan base out there where people have differing thoughts. So I did get strong vibes. With like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. vibes when it comes to John Walker, and the final scene of we see John Walker kind of donning the Captain America shield. I think it's possible that he could be a leader or the leader of the Flag Smashers, because it's mentioned that the Flag Smashers want to essentially have no borders and want like a free-flowing world. And in order to do that, they'd have to overthrow or instill some type of something in the government. And it seems like John Walker, being essentially the face of the government right now, would be the way to do that. And for him to turn and get the Flag Smashers what they want as a man from the inside. Which reminded me of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in terms of the new director kind of coming in and being a con man, essentially, for what everybody thought he was. That's what I got to say right off the bat, that I see that happening for sure. I don't know why that wouldn't happen.
Speaking of which, I don't remember the specific serum the guy had in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but it was like, it would give him short spurts of the super soldier ability, and maybe when the Flag Smashers were robbing that Swiss bank, whoever was behind the mask, like tossing people around, could have been him with the same thing.
Yeah, I like that.
I had that same theory, Ethan, that new Captain America is either going to turn and start to help the Flag Smashers at some point, or he is their leader or has already infiltrated them in some way.
Yeah.
I have one quick theory that I thought of literally as we were recording right now. Yori's going to die, and his last wishes or his last thoughts are going to be him forgiving Bucky for killing his son. And it's going to be super emotional, and we're all going to cry.
Mm.
I'm already crying.
Yeah, I can't do that. I like that big time. I think that does make sense, because then that would greatly help Bucky at least move on from some demons.
He was at the top of Bucky's list.
Yeah, feel some sort of humanity of knowing that someone forgives him and understands his past, and maybe that helps Bucky move forward slightly. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, because Bucky knows Tony doesn't forgive him. So, like, regardless of what happened. Yeah, he's like, you still mad about that? Yes, bro. Stop calling me from unknown numbers.
Yeah, and also we could see another possible John Walker theory, because Zemo has to come into this somehow. We don't really know what Zemo's been up to, what he's doing now. I could see Zemo like Winter Soldierizing John Walker somehow, and essentially then the new Cap becoming a Winter Soldier for the Flag Smashers or something. That way we get a full interlooping like Zemo storyline with everything else, versus like we have the Flag Smashers over here, we have Zemo over here, and we're dealing with a bunch of separates. I could see something like that happening.
Yeah, I'm assuming after T'Challa like took in Zemo, I'm wondering what his motivation is now, because obviously before it was personal to have the Avengers tear themselves apart from the inside for his family's death in Sokovia. But I'm guessing, and I have nothing to base this on except like a few quick glimpses from trailers, that Agent 13 has been tracking him, or at least that's what I'm assuming will happen. Could be wrong though. Banner, you got another one?
Do you think we'll get Sharon Carter or Zemo in the next episode, or is it going to take longer?
I think we will.
I think we'll get one, but not both.
Okay.
Interesting. I'd like both. I love both characters. And I didn't realize until yesterday this is only a 6-episode series.
It's only 6 episodes?
Yeah, WandaVision was 9. So like things are going to pick up.
They got to get moving then.
Oh, they will. No doubt about that.
There's always the possibility that we get a nice lengthy finale. I mean, I know
true.
WandaVision kind of delivered, not really on that, but I could see them clocking like a 75-minute finale.
God, that'd be badass.
Wow.
That'd be sick.
I mean, however long you make it, I'll watch the whole damn thing. So I'm eating out the palm of your hand.
Yeah,
Brian,
coming
what
to the trough.
Ben, you got
this is more just because it's not been disproven yet. Do we think Zemo in some way could become some sort of anti-hero and end up helping Falcon and Winter Soldier?
I could see that. I mean, if you think about where his character left off, it kind of seemed like Black Panther, what he was saying to him was like, you can be rehabilitated. Like, this isn't going to make you feel better, which is why I'm actually interested to see why he's so pissed off at the start of this series. Because it kind of seemed like he realized, like, yeah, I fucked up. I shouldn't have tried to do this. And then he obviously tries to end his life. T'Challa tells him, don't do it. You have a lot to live for.
Yeah.
I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Almost like he's going through the same emotions that Bucky is going through. Like, hey, I need to somehow redeem myself. And if I help them stop these people, that will redeem me for my past misdeeds.
Yeah, he and I think, Ethan, you might have mentioned this in your WandaVision finale, but there is that one scene in one of the trailers where he's still standing over that Sokovian memorial. And I think in the background, it actually kind of looks like it could be the same place where now Wanda is in seclusion, possibly.
Yeah, I think really anything's possible with Zemo. That theory is super intriguing to me because then that I know everybody's kind of playing for themselves at this point, but that selfish motivation out of him of like, okay, I just have to clear my name and then that's all that I'm worried about. That would be my worrying thought with him going that way, because he could be an anti-hero for the next 4.5 episodes. And then we could see him say like, okay, I've helped them, or like I feel some sort of remorse. And then he could like flip on a dime of like, okay, well, I'm just going to go back to who I was, or I have some like everlasting, type of like rage inside of me. I think Zemo is far too like mental warfare to be able to like remove himself and say like, okay, I just have to clear my name.
Yeah, he's really complicated, which is one of the cool things in Civil War that made him work. His motivation, like he even says, he's like, I know I can't fight the Avengers. Like, I'm not an idiot.
Yep.
Like, he never even wanted to activate the Winter Soldiers. He just wanted Tony to see that clip of his parents getting killed. Banner, I have one more that I think you're going to like.
Okay, lay it on me.
So, again, this is a Hail Mary, but this is what we do in the beginning of the series. Just throw up wild things and see what
Let's be honest, that's what we do at the end of a series also.
I'm never the like run the ball guy. I'm never conservative. Sam's sister lives in Louisiana. You know who else? Which Marvel character is from the Bayou of Louisiana?
Gambit.
Remy LeBeau. Gambit. Could Remy LeBeau, Gambit, somehow be either mentioned in the show or be someone who helps Sam and his sister get their business up and running? I mean, Kevin Feige has teased it'll be a few years till we see the X-Men, but you could throw a mutant in here and nobody would bitch about it, Kevin. Like, come on.
I was bitching for 9 episodes of WandaVision that we didn't get a fucking mutant in it. So I would love that. And could we have some sort of, like, Sam's sister goes to a card game, puts the boat up as collateral, loses to Gambit. He kind of feels bad or something. He goes, look, I'll let you keep your boat, and starts working with them. I don't know. We're spitballing here.
Yeah. Any inclusion I would love.
I totally like that as well. I'm never going to say no to anything like that, but I'm going to take that and I'm going to force feed you my own cameo theory, because it's been said that there's cameos coming, and it's more than WandaVision was. And so I've said this since before the show started, and I'm going to stick to it. I preach it on my show like once an episode. I think that at some point in time, we're going to get a little side story, a little 1 episode arc of Rocket coming to steal the vibranium arm from Bucky. I think there's
cool.
options there that we see Rocket come back, Because, why would you throw that line in Infinity War if you're not gonna, if you're not gonna have a payday? Come on.
And Rocket doesn't typically give up when he gets obsessed with some human body part, as we've
Right, he's got to have it. So I could totally see him like coming out of nowhere and something happening. I don't know what's gonna happen, but like I wouldn't say no to seeing Rocket on Disney Plus. Come on.
That would be so cool. He'll probably be like, dude, I already sold this to someone on eBay.
Yeah.
You gotta help me. I told them it was vibranium too. I got double what I thought I would get. All right, that's all I had. Anything else you guys got?
Yeah, that's all I got. That's my Hail Mary for the season.
All right. Well, a lot could happen. Obviously, this one is shorter than WandaVision, at least in terms of episodes. But like Ethan said, I mean, if they want to drop a couple, or at least one like 75-minute episode in there, I will not be complaining about it. Before we let the people go for our review of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Episode 1, Ethan, why don't you tell the people where they can find you? I know you got a lot going on, all related to Marvel, and it's all good stuff. So I'm sure our listeners will love to check you out.
Yeah, absolutely. 15 minutes of Marvel podcast, wherever you can get podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the whole gamut there. And then coming April 2nd, it'll be 15minutesofmarvel.com. We'll have some merch. I'll have a Patreon going on. Big day on April 2nd. So that's kind of you guys get the exclusive first kind of like news, little sneak peek of that coming to the public. So yeah, 15 minutes of Marvel on Twitter. I'm pretty active on there. Get at me with anything Marvel related.
Awesome. And I'll if you click in the description below, I'll have where they can find you on Spotify as well, which will be great. And Ethan's show, if you're a Marvel fan, you have to check it out. It's like he says, it's around 15 minutes each time, and he brings some awesome theories to the table, which I would always go listen to your reviews after we did ours and be like, damn it, why didn't I think of that? That was a good idea.
I try.
Brian, what do you want to leave the people with?
Just excited for the season. I think it's going to be kind of the antithesis of WandaVision, and that excites me. We're going to get kind of both sides of the gambit, and it's all going to work.
Did you make that gambit pun intentionally?
Of course.
Duh.
Touche. As White Goodman says, touche.
Touche.
All right. For Ethan Simmie with 15 Minutes of Marvel and the Mad Scientist, Brian Banner, I'm the Mayor, Jeff Hornacek, and we are the Bro Force Squad podcast. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. Follow us on Twitter at Bro Force Squad. You can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much anywhere you check out your podcasts. If you type in Bro Force Squad as 3 separate words, and find everything we do on our website, broforcesquad.com. Till next time, we're about to enter Libyan airspace.
The Libyans!